Hello again, YouTube. This is Lefty79, the commissioner of the NFL Stableford League, back again with you for another edition of the Power Ranking Show. This time, it's the NFL Stableford Cup 3, and we're 2 weeks in already into this competition, and it's just flown by with a great group of people here. We got 12 teams battling it out for this cup. 3 people on a team, 3 different coordinators every week, contributing to their teams, and we're gonna find out the best of the best right now as we get into these power rankings after 2 weeks in the Stableford Cup 3 proceedings. And I'm gonna start it off here with the team on the screen right now. It's the Buffalo Bills who come in at number 12. Uh, a little bit of a struggle for them out of the gate here, as the Bills are at 1 point in the competition. No wins so far for them, but they have 52 points for and 58 against. They lost in Week 1 at San Francisco, 28-24, and they lost in Week 2, 30-28 at home against the Rams. I see Patrick turning this thing around with these guys. Kike is too good of a player in this league, and I know he's going to find some good performances down the road here yet. And I think we're going to hear a little bit more from the Bills in the weeks to come. And I don't think they're going to end up in this 12th spot, and that's just my opinion there. As we now move to the number 11 team, I'm going to power through these a little bit as I'm a little bit strapped for time here. But I want to try to get through everything I wanted to get through. I got top coordinators coming up later, and we're going to get some individual accolades out and wrap things up after that. But we're going to head to number 11 here in the power rankings. And who do we have? It's none other than the Los Angeles Chargers of Bino, who have no wins right now. They're at 2 points. They have 55 points for, 58 against. They lost in Week 1 in a close one at the LA Rams, their crosstown rivals, 30-28, and then they lost in a heartbreaker in Week 2, 28-27 against another California rival, the San Francisco 49ers. Uh, Chargers had a little bit of upheaval prior to the season. We didn't know who their third person was going to be. We ended up finding Tombinator, who uh, thanks for chipping in and helping out with these guys, as I know the Chargers now are in good hands uh, with 3 pretty solid players. Chinatown's a little bit down right now, but I know. I mean, he'll turn things around. He's always very resilient in this competition, and ever since he's joined NFL, he's had some really great rounds. But he's also had a little bit of he's been a little up and down at times. So we'll see. But I think the Chargers still really early yet. I mean, we're only 2 weeks in, and there's still 4 weeks left to play, and there's 7 spots up for grabs, and the Chargers are going to need to turn it around fast if they're going to find themselves in a wild card spot. But as it is, they're at number 11 in these rankings, and now we're going to hit the top 10 as we find out who will that be. Well, it's a team that's a little bit of a surprise. It's the Baltimore Ravens of Eddie, who have 2 points right now. No wins, 57 points for, 60 against. First week they won. No, actually they lost 34-32 to the Bengals at Cincinnati, and then they lost in week 2 in excruciating fashion. As they I think they thought they had that one in the bank, but unfortunately they were not able to pull that one out as they lost at home to the Patriots 26-25 in a pretty hard fought game there. So the Ravens of Eddie, on paper, these guys should be a playoff team. They're too good. They picked up Insane Eric, who's a heck of a player, uh, and I just think they ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw in Week 1 with Cincinnati, but in Week 2, I think there was just a little bit of a defensive struggle there, and uh, Zuby, I think, had a little bit of a struggle, and he'll turn it around, and I'm sure he'll be the first one to admit it. But as it is, the Ravens are at number 10. I don't think they're going to end up this low, but hey, stranger things have happened. So we'll see how things go for the Ravens here in the weeks to come. As we now hit number 9, and they might be a little bit low here, but I have them at number 9. It's the New England Patriots of Franz. A little bit underwhelming start for them at home, as they had a very windy opener, and they have one win right now. They're at 4 points, so they technically are in the playoffs right now. They have 50 points for, 54 against. As mentioned, they lost in week one, 29-24 against Denver at home. And then they turned it around in week two and won on the road at Baltimore, 26-25. So we'll see which team shows up in week three. Greg and Franz, I know have a pretty good chemistry here. Earsy Boy, who they picked up to come into this cup, has definitely got some handicap on his side, and if he plays well, I think that's the key for the Patriots going forward here. So we'll find out going forward in week three if the Patriots can build on their week two win. As we now hit number 8, going a little bit fast here, it's the Detroit Lions of CF, who have 3 points right now. No wins, unfortunately for them, as they have a ton of points though, because of the overtime game they were involved in week one against Jacksonville. They got 66-4 and 69 against. In that first week, they lost 41-40 at Jacksonville, and then they lost again in week two to a very tough Giants team, 28-26 at home. So Detroit's going to need to start winning at home, is what it's looking like. As they put out a great performance in week one, they were able to pick up 2 points from that overtime loss, but they unfortunately weren't able to get the three, as the Jaguars were able to pull that one out. They just picked up a new player, Neil, who I think is going to be a good addition along with Mark and CF. I know Art is taking his leave of absence now, and I'm sure he'll be back for the season. But he'll be rooting him on from wherever he is, wherever the latex executives go on vacation. But we'll see if Detroit can get things turned around here. They're just outside the playoffs right now, but there's still plenty of time left here for them to get things revved up again. As we now move into the 7th spot in these power rankings, let's find out who it is. Might be a little bit of a surprise here as well, as these guys are on paper pretty good. The Denver Broncos of Austin, who have one win right now. They have 4 points, so they are in a playoff position. They have 52 points for and 53 against. They kind of had a stinker in week two, though. They lost 29-23 at home against the Bengals. You don't want to be doing that. But they did win in week one at New England in a tough environment there. So kind of a uneven start to the cup for the Broncos, but I don't think there's really any reason to panic. They have a really solid team. They got D Dix and they have Austin, and then they also picked up Leibs, who is going to be a nice pickup for them as he brings a little bit of handicap to the team. And if he gets going, I think Denver will definitely be in the running for a playoff spot. As we now move to the top half of these rankings, let's find out what team is number 6. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars of Corey, who have 3 points right now. They're just outside the playoffs if they were to start today. They have that one win that they got in overtime in week one, as mentioned before, against Detroit. They have 64 points for and 67 against. And they're looking to build on a week one win, but that week two game, that was kind of a letdown. Now, maybe that was a little bit of a hangover from that week one win, but they lost at Minnesota in week two, 27-23 at Minnesota. So Jacksonville's going to want to turn things around right away after that performance, and I really think they can do that, as they're a pretty solid team. They will be playing, I believe, their division rivals this week. Actually, not the well, they're all the games are against division rivals in this, as we're in three groups of four. The Jaguars are in a group with Detroit, Minnesota, and the Giants, and I believe this week they have the Giants. So Jacksonville, right now the Giants are the top of the mountain in that white shoes division. So we'll see how that goes, as this is kind of a pivotal matchup for them, to show that they're going to be in the playoffs. And right now, the Giants are sitting pretty good at 8 points with 2 wins, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit. But right now, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars at 6, right in the middle of these rankings. I see Platypus Brigade playing a little bit better here, and he's got some handicap to bring to the table. And then, of course, you can't forget about Pat Strife, who's always a very solid player in the NFL. As we now move to the number 5 spot, let's find out who we have next. It's the purple of the Minnesota Vikings of Andrew, who have 5 points after they picked up that big win last week against Jacksonville. They have 54 points for, 51 against. They lost in week one in a very close matchup against the Giants, 28 to 27 at New York or New Jersey, wherever you want to. Could be either one. But then you have uh, the big win that they had in week two against the Jaguars. So which team is going to show up in week three? I guess we'll find out, as this is a big matchup against Detroit in week three coming up for the Vikings. And Andrew and also uh, I believe Ross and Sean, who are on that squad. So that's going to be a pretty big game for those guys. Andrew, is always going to play solid, and he's the consummate captain for that Vikings team. He's been with them from the beginning, and I think he'll help the two newer guys along and maybe pull these guys into a nice playoff spot here in the Stableford Cup 3. As we now move to the top four, who do we have in the fourth spot? Let's find out. Well, it's a team that won the Stableford Cup the first time around. It's the New York Giants of Tag Rocket, who have 8 points. They have 2 wins, 56 points for, 53 against. They're coming off a big win at Detroit, 28-26 in week two, and then they beat Minnesota 28-27. So 28 points seems to be the magic number here for Tag Rocket and his team, as he's got Polecat and Radak Prime on the squad. Austin, who just joined right before we started. Again, we had a little bit of upheaval with the rosters going in, but everything is now spoken for, and I'm really excited to see how this Giants team goes on here. As they kind of were. They kind of had to get together really fast and find out how they were going to go forward. And so far, Tag Rocket's holding it all together, and this Giants team looks just as good as ever. Uh, Polecat with 3 points of handicap is going to be tough every week, and Radak Prime is a solid player. So we'll see if the Giants can continue on this tear after the first 2 weeks of the Cup here. As we now move to the third spot, who do we have in the bronze medal spot right now? It's the San Francisco 49ers. Well, they're the gold rush team, but they're in the third place spot. So they're looking to go for the gold here in the Stableford Cup, as they have 2 wins already at 8 points. They're at 56 points for, 51 against. They won in week one, 28-24 against Buffalo, and then they won in week two, 28-27 against the Chargers. So again, that 28 point threshold is a really good one you want to get to, as you got Sky Blue Ben on that team, you got Crushtastic Jason, and then you also have Scott Pizer, who has really played pretty well here in the beginning stages of this cup. So San Francisco's looking good. They're in my division, the Fun Bunch, and we got a big game against them this week, and we're going to find out who this number 2 team is, and it's the team that the 49ers are going to be playing in week number 3 of this Stableford Cup 3 competition, and we're going to get to them right here. It's the LA Rams. Right now they have 2 wins, 60 points for, 56 against. That's good for 8 big points. They're behind in the tiebreaker based on point differential. That's what's keeping them behind in their division or in their group. But as far as power rankings are concerned, they've looked impressive in the first 2 weeks. 30 points a week so far in back-to-back 30 to 28 wins against the Chargers and the Bills. So can't really say too much more about that other than Kevin's been playing great. Alan, Old Man Gaming, has been really the star of the show here, and really impressed with how he's been playing as well. So and then you got Lefty, who's just doing his usual thing, his usual uneven performances week in and week out. But if he can get consistent, hey, the sky's the limit for the Rams. And then we now head to the number 1 team in the NFL Stableford Cup 3 power rankings after week 2. It's the Cincinnati Bengals of Jason, who have 8 big points, 2 big wins, 63 points for, 55 against. Put up a big 34 points, the most besides an overtime game. The most in regulation against Baltimore, 34-32 in that win. And then they put up another 29 in week 2 in that big win at Denver. So Jason has the Taft man, Paul, and Gator man, Mitch, playing really well right now. This Bengals team is just coming off a high from the winning the league, and I'm really impressed with what they're doing right now, and they are very well deserving of this number 1 spot. So kudos to them. And now I'm going to move into an individual aspect of the awards here in this power ranking show. I want to shout out the top coordinators after 2 weeks and uh, just how important it is to have all 3 phases working in this competition. The offensive coordinators that definitely got the job done in the first 2 weeks. Well, of course, you got future Buckeye 11 of Jason from the Cincinnati Bengals, who had 14 big points in week 1. You had CF from Detroit, who had a big 14 in week 1. And then you had Old Man Gaming, Allen from the Rams in week 2, who had a big 14 spot. And then I also want to shout out Gatorman, who had a nice 12 points for Cincinnati in week number 2. So those offensive coordinators are very well deserving of those individual shoutouts. As we now head to the defensive coordinators, the top man right now there through 2 weeks is the Taft man, who put up a big 12 points for the Bengals in week number 1 to help them get that first win. And then you have a tie with 11 points between Lefty, coming up of Kevin, and Pat Strife. So those, two solid players there. Well, and he had Lefty. So 11 points there for each one of them, and congrats to them for those big performances in the defensive coordinator role. And then I want to give an honorable mention to Chinatown, who put up 10 points in week 1 for the Chargers in a nice double-digit effort there. And then you move to the special teams coordinators, the guys that, don't get a lot of love, but if something goes wrong, it can really go wrong with the special teams unit. Well, we got a tie for the top spot as we had Zuby and Old Man Gaming each with 11 points in week 1 in that special teams role. And then you had a couple that had 10. Platypus Brigade and Insane Eric, who each had 10 points in their special teams coordinator role. So congrats to all of them. And then I want to give an honorable mention to Airsy Boy, 1996, who put up 10 points for the Patriots in a losing effort in week 1. Well, that's what I have for today, everybody, folks. I really am glad you were able to listen into this today. I kind of had to get through it a little bit quickly as I'm a little bit strapped for time this week, but I'm hoping to do maybe a little bit more of a expansive update in a couple weeks' time. Maybe next week I'll try to get one in as well. But after 2 weeks, that's what's going on in the NFL Stableford Cup 3. I hope everybody is enjoying the competition so far, and I'm really happy to see everybody posting and having a good time. But once again, this has been Lefty79, the commissioner of the NFL Stableford League, saying Thank you once again for joining me, and I will talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, everybody.